family? This is Josh.
Hey, yo, what's going on? What's going on? This is NasZ, and this is
the Josh and NasZ Show.
Kind of makes me wonder why the hell so many people are trying to tell me to slow down. Seems like motherfuckers should be shutting the hell up and enjoying the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? This is Josh with my boy Ignacio Sambretto.
Yeah, what's up?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 10 of the Josh and NasZ Show, and we got a special guest for you guys tonight. We got a woman who I met a couple months back. When I was going to the protests of the Palestinian and Israel conflict. This is where I met this woman. And the way I met her was she was on stage talking and actually, igniting the crowd. She was the one that was inspiring us. She was the one that was trying to get us into focus mode in order to listen to what was the issues at hand. And, to have her here on tonight, to get her to talk, it's going to be freaking amazing, dude. I'm excited to get her on. Susie, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah. Yo, Susie, I want you to understand that you are just the second woman that has ever been on the Josh and NasZ in the history of the Josh and NasZ Show.
Yeah, we had a bit of a sausage fest before, so,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
So you got the grace.
That's unfortunate, too. I wish there were more women out there that were speaking.
Oh. This is why we got you. You're the pioneer here.
No, we definitely appreciate you, Susie. Definitely appreciate you. We're going to get in the interview based on anything you want our listeners to hear, to know about Susie. Just based off the question we're asking, we're going to basically just kind of fill you out and just ask questions based off what you say. Keep it real. They're going to love it. I know you're going to give it out. So it's all you, bro.
Of course.
All right, Susie. So first question, to make sure our viewers know who we're talking to, can you please give us a bit of a background about yourself?
Well, my name is Susie Abdelghaffar. I'm only a sophomore at John Jay College, and my major is international human rights and social justice through dance. And I am the president of John Jay College's Students for Justice in Palestine. I'm not Palestinian, however, I am Egyptian, and I have been fighting for Palestine for quite a while now, a couple of years, and among, of course, other international injustices. So yeah, I've been in the activist world for quite a while now.
Awesome. So, what got you into the activist world?
It's actually really surprising. Freshman year of high school, I refused to call myself a feminist. I refused to call myself a human rights activist, and I didn't like to think about anything that upset me about the world. It wasn't until sophomore year of high school where I went to the 9th Ward in New Orleans, Louisiana, which has the highest crime rate in the nation, and conducting social justice workshops with the kids over there and seeing how much racial inequality still exists in this nation, and going back to school in the city with a bunch of privileged students surrounding me, thinking that, racial inequality doesn't happen anymore and women and men are equal and blacks and Latinos and white people are equal. It was a shocker that people were so closed-minded and didn't see the truth in our society. And then especially after 9/11, the first thing that my mother told me, it wasn't necessarily, I pray for the people or be sad for the people that died. Of course she said to pray for them, but the first thing she said and looked at me in the eye was saying, people are going to judge you. People are going to criticize you for what you believe, how you look. Just make sure it doesn't hit you. And I was only 5 years old at the time, so imagine being 5 years old and seeing the world for what it is and seeing a family member get spit on for simply wearing the scarf around their head, or getting chastised and criticized at school for believing in the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So it was a bunch of things, I guess, in my personal life that opened me up to activism as a whole. And college definitely helped me out a lot with it as well, taking the courses that I wanted to in gender and racial justices. So it definitely was a lot to get me to become an activist.
Wow.
That's
deep. Yeah, that is. I mean, imagine getting told that at 5 years old, yo, you know, develop vinyl skin because it's going to get brutal out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, that's exactly what I was thinking, Josh, because I really want to know how that one moment in her life, because she remembers her age, she probably remembers where she was when her mom told her that. That one statement, your mom telling that, how do you think that affected you from that point of being 5 years old to right now as a sophomore in college?
It definitely, those words still haunt me till this day. My mom actually, peace be upon her, passed away when I was 9 years old, and she passed away from, she passed away from breast cancer. And in high school, I remember there was this kid who happened to also be a Zionist, asked me, oh, did your mother die because she was a suicide bomber like everyone else? And, you know, the first thing was, all right, should I deck this kid in the face or should I do what my mother taught me to do, right? And, of course, you know, I'm learning, or I did the ways that my religion teaches me, and definitely the way my mother teaches me, and I simply just got up and left, because that's what you have to do as an Arab, especially as an Arab Muslim in this country, is you have to learn how to control your anger around everyone. Because if I were to respond in an aggressive way to that kid, he wouldn't have said, Susie responded in this way. He would have said, oh, I knew an Arab girl that responded this way, and all Arabs are like this, or all Muslims are like this. See, This is why we should be spying on them. This is why we should be on top of them, right? Because it's not just me as a person. It would just be me as a whole for the entire ethnicity, for the entire culture and religion. So it definitely clinged on to my head, especially seeing my mother for 2 years fighting with breast cancer and seeing her not getting the same, I guess, attention and treatment from the nurses as other privileged white women who had the millions of dollars to pay for chemotherapy and didn't look for insurance to pay for everything. Definitely was an eye-opener as well for me with societal norms and seeing them.
Crazy. Wow. I wanted to go back to when you were talking about the activists. I know you were telling me a story about how, you know, something happened in a job that you were in that they found out that you were, and, you know, a situation happened where you had to leave the job. Can you, like, elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I actually worked over the summer at a hair salon that was on Fifth Avenue in Midtown, basically the same neighborhood Gossip Girl is filmed. So you can imagine the high-end prices that were surrounding me and the attitude.
We're talking about like $1,000 hairstyles.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was $95 just to get your eyebrows done. Like, it was ridiculous. And I was looking at myself and, you know, I was thinking, wow, it took me $4 to get mine done. Is there something wrong with me? But I was a receptionist there, and there happened to be a coworker of mine who was a stylist, and he was from Israel. And there were a few times where he would say comments about Israel and Palestine, but he wouldn't even utter the word Palestine. He wouldn't even say it out of his mouth, because to him it didn't even exist, period. There was no such thing as Palestine, and there was no such thing as Palestinians. I remember this one time he was watching the video, and I was like, are you watching the news about Israel and Palestine? And he said, what do you mean by Palestine? Palestine doesn't exist. Why don't you go read a book? And you know, as a receptionist, I had to keep my mouth shut because, you know, the stylists are always right, because the stylists are making thousands of dollars a week while, you know, we are kind of the slaves to them. And it got to a certain point where a client was...
At least that's how they make it look.
Right. And the job wasn't right for me at all, just because I don't like being in a privileged setting in the first place. I mean, I've been in a privileged setting my entire life in school, going to a private school for elementary, middle school, and then going to an even more privileged public high school. You know, I'm just sick of being around the kids that get daddy's credit cards and just swipe it to get what they want. And didn't belong there in the first place, but it happened that a client was watching the news on Israel and Palestine, and all I hear is Takbir Allahu Akbar coming out of her phone in the middle of the receptionist area. And the Israeli stylist comes and he says, see, I told you, it's better to watch this than the other propaganda they show you. And he looked at me and he was staring at me, the louder the people got when they were saying Takbir Allahu Akbar, and the host was saying Hamas, the terrorist group, and it kept saying the terrorists, the terrorists, the terrorists, and he was just smirking at me the entire time, staring. And my manager was basically giving me this look like, you better keep your mouth shut or you're fired. So I did the job for him, where I just grabbed my stuff and I left and never went back.
Wow.
Dude, see what I'm saying, dude? That's like, you know what I mean? You gotta get to the point where you feel like, all that shit is over with. You know what I'm saying? It's 2014. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about 2 millenniums later. You know what I'm saying? Still dealing with this shit. And I think you had a sign that kind of said that, right? But like in a different context, Susie, that sign where you got the 66 years and we're still debating this shit or something like that.
Right. It's actually my profile picture. It says, I can't believe we're still protesting this shit. Yeah, because, I mean, it's self-explanatory. I can't believe we still have to freaking protest for basic human rights that should come naturally to someone the minute that they're born. We shouldn't have to be fighting for bombs to not be thrown at other people. We shouldn't have to be fighting for rockets to not be shot at an entire population of people, just like we shouldn't have to fight for blacks and Latinos to not be stopped and frisked on the street just for simply being darker than someone else. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, even with Palestine, the protests with Palestine, I love how they collaborated it with the deportation and illegal immigration, because I think it's so ridiculous that we as a nation allow the government to call people aliens. Like, I don't see how that doesn't click in everyone's mind, that there's something wrong with the way that we think, to call another human being an alien simply because they weren't born in the same country we were. Like, I'm always the first person to say that nationalism is the stupidest idea ever created to mankind. And if nationalism continues, then the world will be completely destroyed, because everyone is just going to be fighting for their own country when everyone should be fighting for human rights in general, because we're all human.
That's a big picture that a lot of people miss, as far as they try to distinguish themselves as this type of person, that type of person. I'm from here, I'm from there, and separate everything out into categories between humans when we're all just that, human. Josh, I really like Susie. Susan, I really like you. This is my first time. Guys, everybody listen, this is my first time being able to actually talk to Susan, hear from her, and
Susie,
a lot of powerful stuff. A lot of powerful stuff. And we've just been on the call, on the interview for maybe 10, 12 minutes. And what generally, like, you guys are hearing, things about building a business, things about, increasing this, or what the hustle it takes to keep pushing as an entrepreneur. But this story right here, what she's telling, is just a fight that you have to go and do something to make a change. And when you're going out being an entrepreneur, you're going out to solve a problem. She identified a problem, and she took it upon herself. Being told that at the age of 5, growing up, dealing with those things, dealing with the situation at work to where she is now, especially dealing with 9/11, because I remember I was in the 9th grade, I believe, 8th or 9th grade, and I couldn't remember some of the comments that even, people in my school, because I went to a private high school as well, some of the comments that I was hearing, about, just bomb them all, shoot them in night. Just being around the atmosphere was kind of weird, because it was like, that being a black male from Mississippi, I kind of know what persecution is like. I won't go say that it goes as far as people throwing bombs, shooting rockets and things, but I kind of understood what it was to be looked at as different for simply being different, right? So this story that you guys are hearing from Susie is mind-changing. You can apply just mindset to any part of life, no matter what you're after. And having said that, Susie, I kind of want to know, and just with where you are in your life right now, what you've dealt with, what you've lived through, what you've grown from, and where you are right now, where do you honestly see yourself being 10 years from now? Like, what's the end game? What's the end goal for Susie?
Oh, boy. That's a really tough question. Well, right now, I had the privilege of making up my own major, being part of the CUNY system. So my idea is to pull together activism with performing arts, because I think performing arts is an amazing way to create awareness to people. And so I've just been really trying to choreograph modern choreographies, hip-hop choreographies that have to do with Israel and Palestine, let's say, or women's rights, or racial profiling or racial inequality. So that's what I've been really doing. But for the future, it's tough because, like, my dad makes fun of me all the time. He says that I'm never going to get a job with with my face everywhere, with my face all over Palestine, or my face all over even environmental justice, anti-fracking. But, yeah, that's a really tough one. I definitely see myself teaching. I don't know whether it's teaching in this country, teaching in this public school system, or being a professor. I think I have an obligation to teach younger generations the truth about what really goes on, and which is exactly why I say I don't know if it's going to be in this country, because I know this country, especially with the Department of Education in New York State, teachers are so tied down to a certain curriculum because all they're worried about is getting their students to reach a certain standard on exams. And I'm not about that at all. You know, I'm all about teaching the truth, and I think it's best when you teach it to people as young as possible, because then that way they won't wait till they're 40 and they're protesting. They'll be able to do it at my age, at 19. And so I don't know. It's definitely something with teaching, but who knows? Maybe I'll make my own.
Can I make a suggestion? Sorry? Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
Speaking on stage.
A few people have told me that.
Yeah, I'm one of the few. Hold on, I'm one of the few who's seen her live. So I know what I got. You know what I mean? I got that HD kind of yo, she killed it. You know what I mean? And so I really think you should pursue that. But that's just my opinion. You know what I mean? That's what I believe.
No, of course, I definitely would do that. I'm just not sure how. You know, I'm not materialistic at all, so I wouldn't mind living in a broke apartment in the middle of nowhere, but at the same time, I don't know how I would get money just giving speeches.
This is something that I could suggest as well, just even something that you can start now. I don't know if you've done it already, but having the background that I have as a marketer, internet marketing, I know the power of social media. Starting a YouTube channel, or starting a blog, or start putting out notes or something on your Facebook, just sharing the truth that you have to share, because you don't have to wait till you have a certain amount of education. You don't have to wait till you reach a certain point to actually do that, especially if, I'm telling you this, if Josh says you're powerful and you struck Josh, then you got something good, because Josh is like, yo, I got this chick, I met her out when I was in a protest, man, she's powerful. He's like, what's the thing about bringing her on? Josh, if you like her, bro, I love her, because I just know what he looks for. I know what he listens for. We actually had another guy on the show about maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
You made me blush, OD. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you can start that now, because you have a lot of truth to tell, and you just, by the time you reach whatever age, whenever you finish college or whatever, you can have a platform already set up where you this is what I've done these years, and you can start inviting people, start creating protests, whatever groups, activist groups, simply on your blog, on your YouTube, doing the same thing we're doing for curating people to our podcast show to get their message out. You can do the same thing from your blog, from your YouTube page, anything. Just a suggestion, because I think what you have is powerful, and I know the people listening think the same thing.
And by the way, I just want to mention, I think Susie is probably one of our youngest
Yes.
people we had on
by
here.
Far.
Yeah,
By far.
you're like 20, right? Or like 19?
Oh, I'm 19.
She's 19, guys. You know what I mean? Look how she's talking at 19. Come on, how many 19-year-olds do you know talk like that? At 19, I wasn't talking like this. Well, I was kind of talking like it, but I still had like the ghetto slang and all that stuff. So, you know what I mean? It's you know, it's awesome.
Wants to be 19 and really know what she wants to do. Like, have a push forward, knowing what she wants to do in the right direction. So you wanted the lucky one, Susie. But this is big. And another thing I wanted to ask was, with what you have going and the things that you've experienced in life, because there's a lot of people that are struggling that are your ethnicity, but a lot of people that are struggling in other ethnicities. What's one of the things, or what's the biggest things that you could tell somebody to help them get through whatever situation, to make sure they handle things with a level mindset, just like you were able to make the decision not to deck the kid in the face? Like, what keeps you level? What can you tell somebody else to keep them level, keep them moving forward and focusing on their goal?
Wow. What I would tell someone. That's very tough because I've been through definitely a lot in my life. And there were so many times where I really felt like giving up. There were even so many times throughout the summer that I felt like giving up. But what was the one thing that helped me move forward? I'm trying to think. Honestly, with me, I think it's easier just because I knew that if my mom was alive and she saw that I was giving up, she would probably slap me back to life and say, you're not going to give up. But it's definitely, I know that not everyone believes in a religion, but it's definitely also having faith that has helped me and has pushed me through everything. And it's I'm trying to think. This is so difficult. I think it was when, in the beginning of the summer, when I spoke at a protest, and it was all over Tumblr and all over Facebook at one point, and just seeing the comments of people saying, you know, someone finally said this. Someone has said what is on my mind out loud. Someone had the guts to. And these 4 little girls, after the second protest that I went to speak at, these 4 little girls were kind of marching behind one another, and one of them was so scared to talk to me, but she said, you know, you gave the most amazing protest. You were better than the guys. And she was so scared to ask to take a picture of me, or a picture with me. And she said, how are you so strong? And I think that's what, and when I gave her the advice, and just to have a little girl tell me that I've inspired her, and to be only 19 to inspire someone, I think is the greatest feeling in the world, which is why I said I want to teach. I think teaching is the most inspirational thing a person can do. You know, I don't care about having thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in my bank account if that's not going to get me to teach one child or give an education to one kid. I don't mind being broke and inspiring people like that, because it's one thing to have all the stuff you want in the world, but it's another to feel true and genuine happiness in the heart. And I remember I never cry, but I was so close to tearing at that moment, because I didn't know that something so simple as speaking out against something would, I guess, help other people speak out as well. So I think it's just, the advice is just think of the long run. Just think of how many people are you going to really inspire. And I think that's what's been pushing me, is that I've been inspiring some people already, and, you know, it's not enough. I want to keep telling more. And I guess what's pushing me is the fact that there are still hundreds of people dying every day that I need to take care of, that we need to take care of as people here. And I feel like giving up is selfish. And I think it's that idea that has kept me through, is, do I really want to be selfish? Do I really want to give up activism do I really want to stop fighting for other people's rights? So I guess that's another way. It's one way of, saying, oh, I'm going to inspire people, but it's just another way where I feel like an asshole if I give up, because I'm just like, no one else is going to fight for them, so I have to, and that's a very tough question, because there are still times where I question myself, where it's so true. Like, Josh knows my friend Monica. Well, she's not even a friend. She's literally my twin, my other half. Her and I have had so many conversations where it's ended up in tears, because it's so true when people say ignorance is bliss, because her and I have gone through such hard emotional times, because seeing videos of these Palestinian children dying and seeing videos of even female babies being killed and choked to death in India and China just for simply being born a girl, it's not that I feel numb to it. It's just that I feel it deep down inside, where it literally brings tears to my eyes. So it's definitely been a rocky road, but it's like, am I going to sit here and cry, or am I going to get up and do something about it? So, yeah, I mean, I just put in my head as it's being selfish if I give up.
All that's big. All that's big and important with making any decision to go forward, because I thoroughly and really am very passionate about, finding your purpose, walking in it, because somebody's looking for you to make a move so they can. And I don't mean you as in just you, Susie, or just you, Josh, but each person that's listening right now, people are waiting for you to make the move, waiting for you to go after what you believe in so they can do the same thing. And being a pioneer, being a person that's 19 years old and being able to inspire people, that is huge. Being able to, because I know the feeling of somebody walking up to you in tears, or they just feel with so much belief simply based on something you said, something you did. That is powerful. So what I got from that whole thing is just having the ability to move forward, because you know that it's bigger than you.
Right, exactly.
And
exactly.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, seriously.
Thank you.
But I tell you, I got somebody powerful. Dude, I never fuck up. I just want to say that, man. You know what I mean? Look.
You what?
I'm saying I never fuck up. I always bring on somebody who knows exactly what they're talking about, who knows exactly, you know what I'm saying, what it is to ignite the crowd. This woman, I'm telling you, dude, when I was watching it, man, you know what I mean? And I'm she's seen me like mad times. You know, she sees me with my little camera, always taking videos and stuff like that. And you could just see how the crowd reacted when she spoke. You know what I mean? It was kind of like everybody just, at least in the front, stood attention. You know what I mean? And just looked at her, and it was almost like, you know what I'm saying, the words she was speaking were just hitting everybody in their soul, piercing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it was the right words. It was the words that we needed to hear at the time. It was the words that remind us, and, you know what I'm saying, of what the situation was, what was going on around that time. You know what I mean? So, Susie, thank you.
Goodness, Josh, you're going to make me blush now.
Dude, I mean, because it's legit. Like, if I was lying, come on. You know what I mean? But I'm not. You know what I mean? This is the truth. So, actually, I wanted to touch on a topic that we haven't touched on the show yet, and that was the topic of religion. You're actually the second Muslim that we had on this podcast show, and I have a personal thing where, I want to clear, not to say to clear the name, but I would like for people to understand what Islam is and what it means to be a Muslim, and kind of clear the bad rap, because I feel like that religion gets a real bad rap for no reason. And if you could share some insight on that would be hot. Insight on
Islam?
Yeah, Islam and what it means to be a Muslim, and what it's basically what everything that it's not what they try to say it is, that how the U.S. construes it, and, it makes it look like it's, ridiculously warlike religion and stuff. Please.
Right, yeah. Well, I can go on forever about Islam, but
you got minutes. Don't worry about
it. Long story short, yeah. I don't have to say, first off, Islam is the most peaceful religion out there, because I'm sure people have heard it a million times before, but then they think of 9/11, and it doesn't click in their head that I don't consider them Muslim, and a lot of Muslims out in the world don't consider them Muslim, because if it's anything, Islam, the first teaching that it teaches is to play the role of God is the greatest sin you can commit. And playing the role of God would include taking another human life or stealing or I guess just anything that would play the role of God, that would mess up with fate and what God has planned for you. By the way, Allah means God in Arabic. A lot of people confuse it and they think that Allah is like a different God that Muslims believe in, but it's actually all the same God. Islam teaches us to be humble. We can have all the money in the world, but to be a true Muslim is to not spend it on Chanel or Louis Vuitton or Michael Kors. It's to spend it on who needs it more, to spend it on the homeless, to spend it on those who don't have access or resources to education. Islam is literally, I think, the only thing that has pushed me in my entire life, because there were so many times where I could have easily used the situations that were handed to me and give up. But now that I'm sitting here now and I'm on a freaking radio show, like I never knew in a million years that I would be asked to be on a radio show, but I realized that God has put all of these struggles in my life for this reason exactly, to push other people. And that's what Islam is about, is to have faith in God that he's putting all these struggles on you so you can become a much better and stronger person in the long run. And I actually wrote my entire college essay was about the word of jihad, or jihad as the media says it. And I actually got rejected by a college because they said that the essay was inappropriate, because I began the essay by simply saying, I am Susie Abdel-Ghaffar, I am a jihadist. And, you know, it's crazy when you think of it, like, what the hell? She just said she's a jihadist, and you look at the news and you're seeing all of these quote-unquote jihadists bombing themselves and killing other people surrounding them. But a jihadist means, or jihad means self-struggle. And everyone is a jihadist. Everyone has struggle within themselves. Everyone has a war within themselves. Are you going to do what's right, or are you going to do what's wrong? So that was the entire essay. It was basically talking about my mom's passing away and then dealing with my family afterward. Those were my self-struggles. It was, am I going to be like a few other people who've had their parents pass away and, you know, get into drugs and alcohol or whatever, or am I going to keep moving on in life and help the people who have the same struggles as me to pick them back up? And that's what my religion has taught me, is to inspire other people and teach them that there's no such thing as giving up, that you have to keep moving on and you have to fight for the rights of people that don't have the same privilege of moving on as you do. So, I mean, that was just a quick thing, but, you know, in every chapter of the Quran, it starts out with saying Allah, or God, the most forgiving, the most merciful. So we see God as being forgiving and merciful. So if we commit a sin, it's not like, oh my God, you're going to the hellfire right away. It's more of, okay, what ways that I can get Allah to not even forgive me? Because to forgive, it can also mean that you never forget. But you ask Allah to pardon you, because to pardon you is to forgive and forget. So that's what Islam does. It's how are ways that you can get God to pardon you. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things. Because I'm sure you've heard so many times, like, oh, I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. But Islam teaches that Allah can forgive and forget. So I think that's what it's so beautiful, because it just gives you so many chances to get to a better place.
And see, that's what I wanted to clear up, you know what I mean? Because I know there's a lot of people who are probably listening, have this kind of an idea where they see Muslims or, you know, Islam as this very warlike, you know what I mean, religion, where they're preaching, okay, go out there and kill yourself because there's virgins in heaven. It's funny because the other day I was talking to Amir, who went to that People's Climate March, and I asked him about it. I was like, dude, you know, what's the whole deal with the virgins? Is that real? And he's like, nah, that's kind of like, it was what they call like an anecdotal that was added later after the Quran was already published, and I get the extremists took it to the extreme and made grab these young guys who were just like looking for I guess they were sexually frustrated. I don't know what the case was, and saying that, look, if you go out there and kill yourself, you're gonna have these virgins. So, I want your idea about that, like, what you think, because that's what he was telling me, and I'm kind of like thinking, wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Honestly, there are so many factors that play into suicide bombing, and I think the problem with the world is, and this is not just with suicide bombing, this is with everything in general, is people look at the people who are causing trouble, and they're saying, they're causing trouble, they're the troublemaker, rather than really evaluating, okay, why are they causing trouble? That's the problem. People don't ask why. They're just quick to judge. There's actually an amazing film. It's called Paradise Now, and it basically it's a film about two men that live in Palestine, and they were chosen to become suicide bombers. And here's the problem with that. For one, suicide bombing, a lot plays into it, such as poverty and education. And, of course, if you're in poverty, you don't have access to education. So when you have older men and they're teaching you, oh, if you kill yourself for your people, if you go out and use your body as a shield or as a weapon, you go straight to heaven. And think of it, if living in a hellhole.
The martyr, right? That they call that being a martyr?
A martyr. Yeah, exactly. So imagine you're basically living in a hellhole. Your water is getting shut off. Your electricity is getting shut off. You are at every corner, and you have no way of getting to the nearest hospital, and your father died because he fought for you. Like, obviously, you're going to believe anything you want to believe to get to a better place, which is heaven. So the film basically talks about that, is the psychology and the sociological factors that impact people to become martyrs, to basically use their bodies as a shield or a weapon. It's because they think they're going to go straight to heaven. And obviously when you're living in a messed up world, that's all you're going to be thinking about is going straight to heaven and what can I do to go straight to heaven. So it's a very complex topic, but I definitely think the two main factors that play into it, poverty and education, or lack of education, I should say.
Wow. NasZ, you got anything else to add to that, bro?
No, I have nothing else to add, man. I was walking around and just listening to everything that she had, and I know that this is going to be an interview that's really appreciated because of the angle that it comes from. Gives people a different perspective of the things that they hear going on around them in everyday life. Not just in business, but as in life and life, and being able to move past that point, being able to dig down deep inside, understand your why, and be able to move forward. So I think that was perfect.
Right. I mean, it's not as extreme, but it's somewhat the same idea of my sister and my brother are both high school teachers. And instead of giving an F to a kid or to a student, what they do is they talk to them first. They ask them, what's going on at home? Why are you not trying hard enough in my class? And most of the time, these kids are, by the way, straight out of the project, straight out of the ghetto. Most of the time, it's because they have a story at home to tell. Oh, it's because my mom was high last night. Or, oh, it's because my dad beat me again last night. That's what I mean by it's the problem of society that's just saying, oh, that kid's causing trouble, rather than asking why is that kid causing trouble. It's obviously not as extreme as killing yourself, but it's the same core idea.
And this is a part of the show where I didn't honestly, when I first started this, I didn't really think it was going to get here, but I think this is very important to get out, because that's right. This digs a lot deeper than what we usually talk about. This is actually going into the homes, and I know about those situations. And to be honest, I was kind of caught up in a bit of a situation like that with my own dad. My dad happened to be an alcoholic for many years of his life. And he recently just started rehab, and he's been several months clean, thank God. And, I wouldn't say I was in the extreme part of that where, he was coming home beating us and stuff. That wasn't what's happening. What was going on was, there were days he wouldn't come home, you know what I mean? And I had to look at my mom, and my mom was crying her eyes out, because my mom's typically a very strong woman. But, the years of my dad, going out, staying out late a couple of days, not coming back, was just crushing her. And, just seeing her like that was crazy. And I knew, I had to step up in some type of way. I had to come up and, be the man when my dad couldn't be the man. You know what I mean? So, what Susie was just talking about right now, I definitely understand that. I get that crazy because, kids are going through that on a daily basis, and they're going through crazier situations where we're talking about no water, no heat, and then the parents are all crackheads, you know what I mean, and they have no clue what to do next. So, for people to stand up for people, you know what I'm saying, the kids like that, people are just going like that in general, that's power right there.
Right. Which is why I think it's also very difficult for people from a privileged background. It's very difficult for them to understand the Palestinian situation or the Palestinian side. It's because they haven't been through, I guess, real-world struggles. So it's very difficult and complex.
But I feel like it's kind of like our job, to kind of get the truth out there anyways, you know what I mean? Right. And try to give them that view as much as possible, to try to get them as empathetic as possible so they understand, look, man, the world, you know what I mean? I generally am more optimistic than the average person, so I kind of believe that the world is really a good place, and, we do kind of get the negative that's shown to us because humans are naturally just attracted to that. But at the same time, I understand that these type of problems are going around, and, it's really bad, dude, because, these are fellow human beings, and it's funny because you just reminded me of the reason why I went to the protest in the first place. At first, I had no clue what the hell was going on. I knew about this conflict, but only at a distance. And then when I decided to go, it was kind of like, all right, let me see what's going on here. I wanted to get involved in something, so I was like, let me see what this protest is all about. When I got there and I started hearing the plight of what was actually happening, it just, inside of me, my heart was kind of like, oh, God, I can't believe this is actually going on. You know what I mean? I know what's going on, but, to finally, get it in my face, and I have to see it, and I can't turn away from it. You know what I mean? I can't play the role of, I don't want to hear about no bad stuff in the world. I had to see it from my own eyes and seeing these videos and those photos that they had, that the people had on the signs and stuff, it's kids mutilated, their bodies, and it was ridiculous, and they were just reminding me, shit, I'm a fucking human, what am I doing? You know what I mean? I got to find some way to, in my way, find some way to help mankind or something. Right. So, that's, it was actually due to that protest, and now I'm really trying to pursue avenues where I can give back to humanity as much as possible. So,
right. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've had a couple of those times where it's like I wish I never knew all of this just so I can breathe, just so my brain can rest for 1 second. But
right.
At the same time, during our first general meeting for Students for Justice in Palestine at our college at John Jay, I looked at every single club member and I said, listen, you have an obligation to save people, to literally save them. And, if more Palestinians die, I'm not saying it's completely 110% our fault, but it is somewhat our fault at the same time because we are the ones who are electing the next politician. We are the youth. And we are the ones who are supposed to use our freedom of speech to fight for them because they don't have the right to speak out. If they have the right to speak out, they wouldn't be getting bombed and grenades thrown at them every day, We have an obligation as not even just students and not even just young people, but as rights and amendments, we should be using it to our full advantage to fight for other people. And this doesn't even just go for Palestine. This goes for everywhere in the world. This goes for international women's rights. This goes for illegal immigration. This goes for absolutely everything. It's the same. All of these ideas that stem from Palestine, it literally, it's a tree branch. It connects to all other issues in our world. It connects to illegal immigration. It connects to what's going on in Ferguson. That's why Ferguson and Palestine are perfect situations to combine because it's not a two-sided conflict, which is what really ticks me off is people keep saying, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Because to call it a conflict, it would mean that there are two sides at an advantage, when really there's only one side, which is Israel. You have the oppressor and you have the oppressed. It's as simple as that. As well as Ferguson, as well as the U.S. in general, you have the oppressed and the oppressor. You know, we as the minorities are constantly see the oppression every single day. So I think people need to start seeing that what's going on in Palestine doesn't just affect Palestinian. It affects all of us equally, every single one of us. Because the fight for Palestine, you're also fighting for minority rights. You're also fighting for women's rights. You're also fighting for immigration rights. You're fighting for everything, for unity, if anything, for justice. You're fighting for justice.
And that's it, folks. Right there, justice. That's what it was about. Nas, you got anything else to add, bro?
That was it, justice. I just let them know, like, whatever you have going on, Susan, like if there's any place they can connect with you on Facebook or
any events you're doing.
Yeah, whatever you got going.
Yeah, well, you can definitely add me on Facebook. It's Susie, Susie, and then the last name is Abdel. Josh has me on Facebook, actually, but also to join our page for events, it's Students for Justice in Palestine at John Jay College. I can forward that to you guys as well.
Okay. Well, we definitely, I know I appreciate you so much, Susie, for just taking the time to step out here. I know
and he just met you.
Great speaker. You did an awesome job.
Thank you.
And I hope that this kind of gives you a little more confidence to go forward with whatever it is that you really want to do. I know speaking thing and just give you some ideas as how to approach and just to continue doing what you're doing because it's big and people are depending on you so that they can do what they got to do. And I just appreciate you for doing that and definitely appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 10. Let them know, Nas. Let them know.
You already know what it is. Episode 10. We just wrapped it up for you guys. Each and every Monday we have a new episode coming to you. Unreal, real stuff. It's unreal, real stuff. Raw, uncut. Give it to you right here, the Josh and Nas Show. Be sure to check us out, joshandnas.com/show. Get all the updates, all the last shows, guys. It's episode 10, so you got 9 more if this is your first one. If you've been listening, we appreciate you. We'll see you next week on the Josh and Nas Show.
Peace.